Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today I want to show you the S-100 1944 variant, battle rating 2.7, rank 2, German S-boat, Schnellboot. It's quite fast, even stock, 67 kilometers an hour, compared to things around its battle rating like 18.7 fully upgraded, or 17 here stock for the SF-40 and AFD variants. The S-100 is very good at getting into a capture zone, fighting the enemy off early on, and then just having a lot of problems getting out there alive, and also bringing its selling point to bear. Now, it is a very complicated ship to operate. It is a very difficult ship to get the maximum out of it. It requires a lot, and I mean a lot, of micromanagement, from the 20 millimeters to the 30 millimeters to the torpedo tubes. Everything is complicated. It is so German. Yeah, it doesn't get more German than that, except if you are a mechanic in responsibility of maintenance on a Tiger. This thing is fun, and it's not. However, its basic job is contesting capture zones, which is the most advanced game mode ever invented by Gaijin, which they have never come up in the past for years. And yeah, especially on the small maps, your arch nemesis are SF-40s, leichte, schwere, AFD-1s, and in particular the LCS, which is an absolute monster. Now, in particular, I want to point out the difference between the single 30mm on the S-100, the problems it has compared to the ridiculously awesome dual 40mm Bofors Mark 7 mountings. In particular, in not just the single DPS or damage output in a single burst, where this is better, but also the cooldown, the overheating, and the reload, and especially the factor of time. See, this thing is not slow, and it has a bit of survivability. It has backoff of 20 millimeters, dual mountings here and here, good firing angles, a second 40 millimeter dual mounting here, and even a very surprisingly versatile 3-inch Mark 10 gun. So that was a bit of a mouthful, and you see them very often on the battlefield, very often. So that is why I want to compare it. And this is where I have to come to the micromanagement of the S-100 1944. And it has to do a lot with the 30mm. Now, the S-100 1945 has a 37 instead of the quadruple 20mm in the back, and also the front 30mm got replaced with a 20mm for, I guess, better usability. Now, what is the problem with this 30mm? I mean, come on. This 30mm MK103/38. It's an MK103. What are you complaining about? It's fantastic on the Kugelblitz. It's fantastic on the Horten, B6R3, and some other German ground attackers or bomber interceptors. It works completely different, okay? It works completely different. A lot of the trade-offs that you associate with the 30mm on planes or the Kugelblitz are not really working out that well on that thing. And it is just ridiculous how complicated it is to make work. So you have 2000 rounds in 20 belts or magazines, so 100 round magazines. You have to fight the slow muzzle velocity, the very inaccurate, dispersion when you want to fire at somebody. Also, you have to work around the fanatic overheat. 30 rounds in a row and you jam the gun. If you jam the gun, you have to go through the reload cycle. But then you don't have 100 rounds in the chamber, but like 70, alright? So, okay, not a big deal, but the reload takes up to a minute. A minute of reloading a 100 round magazine of 30 millimeter. Yeah. And if you have like 2 or 3 rounds in the chamber and you overheat, you have to go through the full reload cycle empty the 3 shells, and then go through the entire reload cycle of what feels like a minute again. Okay? That's just the 30mm. Then we come to the 20mm, and they're probably the most awesome thing on this ship. You know, the flak feeling here is awesome. But you have to show broadside. You have to show the side to get the firing angles so you actually can so that you actually can shoot the enemy ship like this. Then you bring the dual 20mm also to bear. The reload on this is also nothing to cough at. It is there is a really feelable reload. And the dual 20mm might be the best, but very restricted firing angles. Something like to the rear like this, and then to the front like this because of this, well, steel thing. And then we come to the torpedoes. You have 2 of them, and there are the G7As, the typical German torpedoes. Nothing wrong with them, except how you have to launch for them. So you aim at the target, you make the you make the green indicator being above the white lead indicator. You press, for me it's the space bar, and then you wait up to 5 seconds, up until the torpedo actually launches. And to drive in a straight line in an S-boat in a firefight is mostly a death sentence. So, and now we come back to the LCS, the monster, and you know, the dual 40mm just laugh at this because the rate of fire is higher. You have 2 guns instead of 1. You have practically a better stock belt, which is the best belt that you can ever use. When it overheats, the cooldown is very short, 4 or 5 seconds. The reload, if you have any of that in the first place, is much shorter, like 5-6 seconds it feels like, compared to a minute for a single 30mm. So again, the overheat issue with anything German except the 20mm is hilarious. 15mm and also the 30mm are practically useless in a sustained fight. So how do you play this complicated ship that requires so much micromanagement? Well, you rush into a cap, you just mow down the first 2 patrol boats that come to your into your side while you fight the inaccuracy, the slow muzzle velocity, and the overheat. And I mean, if you then have here the API belt, which is more than good enough in terms of raw damage output, you can just do in absurd amounts of damage. The high explosive incendiary tracer HWAP belt is probably the best in terms of raw penetration and also muzzle velocity. So I switched to this one. In terms of damage output, they are equally, it's just a bit easier to hit with this one. Depth charges, I researched for the suicide runs, and for the 20mm, I think the stock belt is the best because you can shoot down planes and you can shoot up enemy patrol boats from the bow to the stern. So armor piercing is very important. And yeah, I think maneuverability is key. You go into a cap, you slash the first 1-2 opponents, hope that you arrive there without getting shot by Siebelfern or AFD variants or the LCS from the Americans, or that another patrol boat gets a good hit in. And you want to cap the capture point for, you know, getting your team in lead, because this is the best game mode ever. And then you look for a rock and make that rock your waifu. And while the 30mm reloads, you toggle the gunner so it just shoots at planes, because if you then let the 30mm gunner shoot, he will jam the gun. He will jam up the gun, and that is highly frustrating. And you switch to the 20mm and you reverse and you come around the corner very slowly and then just burst the enemy to death. Make sure that you hit. Make sure that you have the firing angles while you come around the corner. You must ambush the enemy, and this is how you make the S-100 1944 work. And I can tell you, many of those issues when associated with the 30mm, the single 20mm does not have. I think the 37 here in the back is kind of useless. In theory, it gives you better range, it gives you better punching power, but effectively the firing angles, the positions that you're mostly in, I think very often the single 20mm in the front is just better. Why not put the Wirbelwind here? That would be really, really nice. But it would be a bit bow heavy, I guess. So, back to the S-100 1944. I hope you excuse this rambling in the front, but I just wanted to tell you how I want to play the ship. So now, let's have a look at the gameplay. So, for all of you that just jumped right here from the beginning, not wanting to hear my rambling, just want to see the gameplay. Yes, the S-100 1944 African Gulf map, and this was one hell of a gameplay, but it looks boring, but the execution was second to none, I guess, if I may say so myself. It was a bit lucky how the enemy behaved, but also that they came at me 1 versus 1. Quick recap about the 30mm. You have to really fight the relatively low 100 round magazine or belt, and then the reload takes a very long time, while you have to fight the low muzzle velocity, the inaccuracy, and also in particular the overheat. So let's see how it goes, and there's our first customer. But the damage output, if you hit the enemy, is amazing. So that were just 26 rounds, and we cut down a PT boat, and there is another one, and I actually fire at long range, but you can see it's not incredibly slow muzzle velocity, but the accuracy is already out of the window. If this is down to the ships rolling around, I don't know. I get shot from the side, but I kept firing and emptying, and look at how long the reload takes. So I switch over to the 20mm, and I ram here this rock, which I make now my waifu, my best thing ever, and I just reverse with the right firing angles of the 20mm, and I want to ambush the enemy. So I go slowly around the corner, always having a look, is somebody coming that way, and I also have toggled my auto gunners to just shoot at planes, because the auto gunner is on a regular basis, if he is shooting at other planes, overheating the 30mm, and that's highly frustrating. So I saw that my 20mm clips were not completely full, so I emptied them and reload them. You have enough ammunition to do so, and you go with full magazines into the fight, which is to be recommended. The 30mm has now reloaded, and so we try our best. And there is an SF-40 Leichte, Siebelfähre, and I do a lot of damage to him from the side. I count here on knocking out the crew. I switch to the 20mm, and I get myself a nice kill on an LS boat. Very easy. But even that little thing did kind of a lot of damage to me. And I try to now finish off here the Siebelfähre with the 30mm. You can see how much damage you do, but how difficult it is to aim for that particular sections of the ship. And now I cut him down to 36 rounds, percent of crew rather. And again, I empty here the 30mm completely to get the full recycle. Then another ship goes into the trap of my 20mm. So a lot of micromanagement. How you toggle the gunners. You move forwards and backwards. You wait to shoot an enemy up until you move forwards again, so that when he aims the gun at you, you are in cover all over again. And it's more important to maybe empty your belts and just be in safety again before the enemy has the chance to kill you. And this is so important to defend the cap. A nice side effect is also that you can reload the torpedoes in the capture zone if you're long enough in it. And the enemy cannot take the capture point as long as you're in there. And when you are positioned, especially broadside on, with a bit more showing the enemy the backside of your ship, you have all the firepower that you need. A big problem is here that how the autogunners behave. That they tend to overheat your 30mm, and that you have to rely on the 20mm, which do a lot of damage, from 90% to 57% with a single salvo. So you see, the damage output, the burst output is not the problem. It's impressive, it's cool. But again, head on against an LCS that just cuts you down with the 40mm, it's just no contest. And a single burst with a lot of lead, and we did kind of a lot of damage to this boat. And now I have just 2 of my 3 engines, so the reverse speed is lower. Again, I empty here the 20 millimeters. And it's also important to help your team in firefights, to damage enemy ships and get into cover. Even a lot of kill assists will pay the bills. Yes, it's more impressive to get kills, I agree, but to defend one capture zone and to help your team with that is very important. And there I got taken out by another S-100 1944. He had his 30mm available, and now I need to switch to something else. The S-100 1945. Let's see how long this goes. Again, the difference, 37mm in the back instead of a quadruple 20mm, and a single 20mm instead of a single 30mm. That doesn't overheat, that reloads faster, where you can stay in the fight bow on much longer. Now I have to say the front gunners are actually pretty hard to take out in this ship, and that is actually something nice. So your bow section will get saturated or get black very quickly. Here I try my best, and there you can see he's in a firefight with somebody else, and that single 20mm, well, it does its job, but this firing nonsense is just so frustrating that you cannot have this direct aim. I want this direct aim, even if it is arcade stylish, but this constant micromanagement, not just with the aiming of a patrol bot in general, but in this thing in particular, is just so... it's so anti-fun. It's so anti-fun. It's just exhausting in the long run. Yes, you can learn it. I know that how it works. I know how to kill the enemy, but it's just still very exhausting. So here I have to show broadside to get the dual 20mm to bear, to aim for the back of the ship and eventually killing him off. I then get hammered from the rear, and there he is in cover, still hitting me. I'm on fire, down to very low crew. 2 of my 3 sections are already black. I was burning, 1 of my engines is knocked out, and I'm flooding. Very fragile patrol boat. But again, now I recaptured A, I retook it, and now my team made it possible to get B. Now you can fire away with the 37mm, and I tried to get here into cover and to launch here the torpedoes from cover. So this is the very same thing that you can do with the 1944 variant. And I make here a tight spread and I go back into cover. Eventually I want to seal the leaks as well. Yeah, there we go. And now I'm reloading the torps in the capture zone. So there is a plane, and I got him. I think that was the 37mm orthogonal. Yeah. And again, I'm waiting patiently in the capture zone. The SF-40 that I was launching tops at was taken out. And one of your big problems is the deceleration, the braking, okay? And so that is kind of a problem when you want to maneuver. So ramming those rocks, losing a bit of crew, and saturating your frontal section is the best way to stop from, you know, going like 65. And that is important to know. Why? Well, because that plays in the favor of your most important thing, which is time. Time is such a big factor in this game mode in particular. And you just have to be very, very patient. Aggressive at the right moments, and then patient all over again. So now I actually foolishly move out of the cap. We have all 3 capture zones. Our team is now moving towards the spawn area. There's just 1 enemy left. And yeah, this is how it goes. You just have to really work with the minimap, with your surrounding, read the map, and just hold a capture zone and just make a rock that you can hide behind your waifu. There is just no other way to explain it. In the open, you're just gunfoot practice. I like the look of the ship. I like how it moves around. I like how you can sometimes use it. But overall, the amount of micromanagement, the amount of just things that you have to take into account in accuracy, belt, reload, overheat, firing angles, time that the torpedoes need to get out of the torpedo tubes. I'd be very, very happy about Gaijin giving us the option to open the torpedo tube ceiling. So, you know, that would be amazing. Like with bomb base for bombers, you know, that's kind of a thing, and I would approve of that. So just one enemy left, and we're about to win the game. And yeah, that was, in my opinion, a very, very nice demonstration how to play the S-100 series of fast patrol ships, or Schnellboote, but also how to make use of tactical decisions to point out the difference, in particular, of the 1944 type. Here we have the results. I have to say the results for winning a game with a premium account, with making so many assists, hits and kills, 5 kills, 1 plane, and 1 6 kill assist, and I just got 2,371 research points and 1,584 score points. That's just a bit of a problem. But nevertheless, I like the ship despite all its micromanagement issues. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with me or you disagree, in particular in comparison to other ships, map design and so forth. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves of War Thunder.